So for our closing session, we have a headliner on the subject of Huawei Cloud AI, Redefine AI for the intelligent world. Our speaker is Chief Product Owner for the West European region at Huawei Technologies. He is responsible for planning new services for the public cloud platform of Huawei, incorporating customer requirement and coordinating with the R&D side of the Huawei to provide these new services. Please give a warm welcome to Thomas Weber, Chief Product Owner, Huawei Technologies. Thomas.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm happy to be here again after 1 year to see so many familiar and also many new faces in this nice occasion. So thanks for having me. Yeah, as I'm introduced, I'm the Chief Product Owner of Huawei Technologies for Western Europe. So I'm taking care of our platform developments and the according product development. And today I have the pleasure to talk to you about how we want to redefine, with the help of AI, our intelligent world. Of course, in a healthy city context. So Jessica was just touching about people's health. I will talk about more, let's say, actual city health in the future and how we manage this. So this is exactly what I'm going to cover in my presentation. So I will cover actual trends and challenges that we see from our side in matters of technology, in society, how it relates to each other, and also what we think is kind of a good way to solve such issues. And then I will close with an actual success story that is directly relating to this field. So before we get into this topic, what do you think? Let me ask a question to the audience. What do you think is or are the biggest threats to our society? Maybe the lady in the front, you're looking quite critical at the moment. What do you think is the one highest risk for our societies? Cybersecurity. Okay, I didn't expect that, but humans could also be an answer, yeah? Or some people say overpopulation, others say underpopulation, or maybe AI. So I don't want to state that this is a risk, but this is mutual answers, right? And I think it's fair to ask these questions because, not only on a philosophical level, but also on an actual level, AI is getting into our societies more deep. So that's a valid question to answer as well. But in my research, just as a quick preparation for today's presentation, I just researched the most common researchers' intuition. Yeah, so energy as such, energy as a general topic. So you see everything which is going on, for example, in Germany, for example, in France nowadays, societies are getting under pressure with very fundamental things 10 years ago nobody would actually have been caring about. Yeah, power. When I was a child, I didn't care if I switch on the light or something, Nowadays, things changed. Climate change as such, it has multiple dimensions. I don't want to get into this in too much detail, just as misinformation as well. On social media, it's unfortunately easy to start campaigns that have or can have a horrific impact. And this is just some examples. I don't want to state that this is the most risky things, but definitely they belong to the top 10, I would say. And also, I will cover in my success story something that is directly related to climate change. So I thought it's a good idea to start with this and also to catch your attention because I personally like to work on topics, that have an actual impact, that is positively impacting our society and also is like a real challenge. And I mean, this is real challenges, right? So from our side, give you a quick introduction to Huawei as such. We are actually in the specific field of artificial intelligence putting a large effort on principal R&D. So like, for example, in Munich, we have our research center where very high qualified colleagues are actually looking into principal issues in simulation topics. Also in Vienna, we have guys like working in quantum physics and such relations. I think it's not mentioned here in the map, but they are very good guys. I'm working closely with them for certain topics. So if you want to start with quantum computing simulation, for example, you can look up Project Q on Google. It's a nice thing. It will be important for our AI things in future, but that's just as a side note. So here, I would just want to show basically what we are putting as an effort globally. Only in this area we are spending like 5,000 colleagues globally, and we have specific topics like MindSpore. The brand is shown below here. It's basically one good example. This is why I'm listing this here, because it's open source. So everything we do, also like in the quantum space, we put as contribution to the public. And this is a principle that I like very much. I'm from the cloud area of Huawei Technologies. And in the cloud, usually customers, they benefit most from these approaches. Because you can just use what someone else, in that case, developed and build up on that. And this is also the case for us in AI. And this will be more important because we see in the trends and challenges section here, actually, most projects are struggling in matters of speed. Speed is a key challenge. Time to market, having people not allocated to projects for too long time, and we think that basically in these 4 areas we can find those most pressuring issues. So on the left you can see what we mean with knowledge computing is that people should actually focus on the issues that really understand it. The, let's say, basic data scientist is not, for example, a professional in the health market, for example. So the people who are professionals in the health market, they should be focusing on solving those issues. But naturally, they are not like data scientists, data architects, programmers, or something. So we think bringing these 2 worlds together and making AI development as simple as possible is kind of one of our key missions that we also name here as the first one. Multimodality. So if we really think about an actual AI model, we think that models should not be only working in one dimension. We want them to be universally fitting. This has upsides, this has downsides. I will cover this in more detail later. The third part that is directly related to this is the large models. So we prefer to create large models. This is something that I will in deeply cover in this section and also in the success story. And the fourth part is the device cloud synergy, which is basically underlining that the number of devices that are based on AI in whatever dimension, the smallest statistical approach or the largest, whatever built-in deep learning capabilities that we may find in cars in future or whatever. It's a very broad range of possible solutions. But it's growing very fast, so we have here some IDC figures. You can read it yourself. We see it's just a very important part. We have our device synergies that we are providing actually solutions based on our own cloud, on our own enterprise solutions, and also on our device strategy. So if we look at this in the different phases approach, we see that there's different challenges for different areas, especially in the smart city. You usually also have the governmental, let's say, influence. So it's not like running in a company. It's like you have many stakeholders, you have many things to think about. And in an exploration phase where we want to make AI easier, we get in touch with cities relatively early in the stage where they basically have maybe not even kind of a plan. Yeah? And in this phase, we understood, okay, we have to show them how we can change in production systems the benefit quickly. So this is true for the industry, but this is also true for the cities. So having a smart city approach, for example, smart light systems, smart waste systems, and all this stuff, customers, especially those customers I know in Europe, they are having a good foundation. They are building smart solutions, but they are not powered by AI. They are not gaining something from the data they have and the data they create. That's currently the state that I see. And this means also that we have to marry these systems. Yeah? So we have to marry these systems. We have to make the data useful and usable, not just lying there. And finally, also make an end-to-end optimization possible, because it's natural. If you have an AI project, you start with one idea. And once everybody in the room understood how it works, how it can work in future, there come more ideas up. This is good for the business case sometimes. This is good for the use of the humans, for the human beings. But being a data scientist or a project manager in this area can be kind of difficult, let's say like this, because your targets also change all the time. And we know working against moving targets, very difficult. So what we think in those challenges, especially connecting and integrating, so you can focus on the right part majorly, connecting and integrating these different phases is like the major challenge. So we have to understand in which phase we are, with which customer, how can we increase the easiness of applying those approaches for the customer, and also how we make this future developments visible, how we can go through the development process and find the best way to solve the customer's issues. So having that said, I want to dive a little more into Pangu. So what is Pangu? Pangu is actually something that we are building up on Mindspore. It's the open source framework that I mentioned before. So what Pangu does actually, it's originally only a name. It's kind of covering 4 principal areas of AI model development. So CV, which is computer vision, NLP, so natural language processing, principal graph, and scientific computing. So these models are models that we are developing from scratch by ourselves. So we are providing them, for example, if you Google for, or maybe I just say search, for Pangu NLP, you will find either the MindSphere model zoo, so it's basically a list of models that we are supporting and that we are creating with the Mindspore framework, which hardware is supported, because we also provide GPU-powered resources, of course, in the cloud. We also provide NPU-powered resources in the cloud, so the choice and the breadth of solutions is large. So, and if we talk about this different kind of models, why do we do this? Of course, you know, we want to pay into this by spending, for example, training time. You know, each of this model is a pre-trained model. For example, in the CV area, we are spending really billions of data and tons of compute hours to pre-train this model, make it large, and make it sufficiently be pre-trained for multiple purposes. And this is what we do as a layer 0. So we call this layer 0. In this layer 0, we are doing kind of the preparation, so that our customers do not have to do this preparation themselves. This is kind of not a new approach. Other large companies in that context doing similar approaches, but the extent and the amount of work and effort that we are spending here is like numerous. You know, I cannot quote it now in exact numbers in the comparison. That's a little difficult. Nobody from Google wanted to tell me, but principally we are really spending a lot of effort, a lot of money, and a lot of know-how and time on making this available. So as said, you can just look it up on GitHub and find those solutions and use it. Yeah? So you can use it right away. Either if you are very knowledgeable and you want to get into this topic really deep, I would call you a layer 0 user. You know, I love coding. But this is not the paradigm that we are searching for. Of course, you can do it like this, but we are expecting that if we want to touch this speed column of the challenges, that we say, okay, users, they prefer to be a layer 1 or layer 2 user, so that they take what we prepared and use the infrastructure and the systems that we are providing to build up quickly and have a time to market effort and benefit relation that is in a good balance. If you want to start a project from layer 0, you know, typically on such events, there's always one track at least or one session that says why AI projects fail. and usually the people, they come up with like, the plans are not aligned, it's taking too long, not the right understanding of the materials and the targets and all these things. In my opinion, in 90% of the cases, it's speed. Because if you have something to show early, people will understand what you do. If you have something to show early, people see the value and see the progress. If you start from layer 0, it's easy to fail. That's my personal learning, and this is also what we see from the figures. We have something like 600 projects that we executed globally, which we kind of conducted into our know-how database and learned from this project, and that's one of the keys. Yeah, so this is why we come up with this. The layer 1 is, of course, then depending on the actual use case, you can start using our systems or apply this to the according systems based on the API compatibility. That's also no problem. But building up your own models in those areas, do all the basic training in these things yourself, it's kind of challenging. So this is like the key message that I want to give. Did I miss anything? I have to think because it's an important thing. I don't want to leave anything very important out. No, I think for Pangu itself, that's it. What we can talk about next is the approach that we actually have from layer 0 to layer 1. And this is just underlining how we work in Huawei Technologies. So I learned a new word in preparation of this presentation, and it's ladybug or lady fly, I think, as well. So this is how it's called in English. I'm not an English native speaker. Maybe you noticed. So this is how these little friends are called, and this is exactly the strategy that we are following. So we are doing the actual scientific research, the preparation, making the model fat and having the necessary data available, do all the training, for example, based on public data sets, for example, based on wiki-like data, for example, social media and all this stuff to get, for example, in the NLP case, the necessary training data. And we make this foundational work for our customers and for the community. And then basically the second major part is that we do the industrial large models. We do the productization. We offer this bug, this ladybug, with feet so that they can walk and fly easily. So that's the description of that matter. Now I want to come finally to a success case that is just showing kind of an involvement of Huawei and the Pangu model as a foundation for one city in China. The Chinese colleagues may forgive me if my pronunciation is not correct, but it's Pangcheng, I think, is the city's name. And what we built there is actually a surveillance system for power grids. You know, I mentioned that at the very beginning. What is putting pressure to our society is climate change, for example. And you know, power is more important than ever to our cities. You know, it's the blood of our cities. If we don't have power, you know, nothing works. You know, the screen is not working, my presentation is not ongoing. Most likely you cannot charge your car, so also a big issue. And in this case, this city, it's also called the city of mountains, because it's lying in like a very mountain-rich area. And due to the climate change and the weather change, the situations to this power grid get more rough. Yeah, and this is true not also only for China. This is true everywhere in the world, you know. And in this case, it's just about two principal cases. So we are doing permanent surveillance with fixed installed cameras at the power grids itself. So they are detecting things like if a pin is missing, if, for example, a conductor is getting iced during wintertime, or if there is a fire going on around the tower, for example, you know, because this is things that are happening. And this is not only true for China. As I said, in Germany we had like over 300 wildfires only in this summer, and the time goes up every year. We had floodings last year in Germany where 170 citizens died. Out of sudden. The warning systems didn't work. It's really tragedy. Yeah? And in this matters, I just want to sharp the understanding that, you know, maybe we cannot change the climate change with this, but the effects that are harming us and that are making a risk to our life and to our cities, they are real, and we have to really take care of this. So this is one part of that. The other part are the drones. And this is actually also my closing slide, because it's not only that I want to make this because of the weather change, it's also about helping people, right? So either you climb the tower, right, which can take like an hour, and in this area, for example, the weather changes very quickly, yeah? So maybe you step up, the weather changes, and you have to climb down immediately because, you know, you don't want to work there in rain, right? So actually, climbing is mostly unnecessary. Of course, exceptionally is if you have to do physical changes to the lines or something. But now they are using drones to do this inspection via remote, yeah? And that's true for the drones, of course, and that's also true for the pictures that the stationary cameras are taking. Okay, I was asked to keep some time for questions, right? So I hope I'm on time. Then I would say thank you now. Time for questions.
Thank you, Thomas. I believe you have a question right here. If you could just wait for a second for the mic.
I think it's coming. No
Yes.
worries. Yep.
Right there.
Hi. So there's a really great summary of some of the challenges of individual projects. How does the challenge change when you have multiple concurrent projects going on at any one time? Because it looks like you're working on so many things. And I don't know, do you have an army of project managers to do things? How do you manage the complexity of having so many things going on at one time?
You mean in matters of research or customer projects?
So I think if... Actually, can I ask for both?
Both, yeah. I knew it, why I asked. On a general basis, we have project teams that are supporting, either in direct customer contacts, but we are strong, especially globally in partner business. So we have indirect channels that we are powering, so we are greatly supported by our global partners. That's one thing that is important, and on the research side, we are balancing these topics, of course, globally. Yeah? So we have many research centers, they have kind of a focus, but of course, they are also exchanging if there is like an overlap. Does it answer the question?
Yes. And what about on the industrial side?
What do you mean on the industrial side?
When you're giving the ladybird legs, to use terminology, like say you have like loads of data sets, loads of projects going on at any one time. Like, how do you manage that?
I think it has two major dimensions. The one dimension is the actual model itself. So of course it's about the data. So if you have a CV model and you want to use it in this power grid terminology, then of course you need the training data to feed in for this. Now let's say you want to operate this in Europe, and maybe they use different components in their power grid. Yeah, what you do, you go to the customer and tell him, I have a model here. It's like 80% fine. You just have to give me like 100 pictures of those components that are not right, or not the same. And we train the model again, and then you are good to go. And it's not months or years anymore for such a project. It's maybe weeks.
Thank you.
All right.
We have time for one more question right here, if you would.
Thanks for the very interesting presentation. I was wondering, to what extent do geopolitical questions and ethical considerations and differences impact product development, especially, of course, to the customer side? Do you think about that in the process? Is that or are you completely agnostic to it?
For us, that's a very important topic. As I said, I'm responsible for the demand management. So if we talk with German or European customers and partners, that's kind of the foundation that we do. So for example, we have many customers, they have their own AI ethics act, you can say, which they enforce in their company, and we include this into our basic developments.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hey. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, give the hand first, yeah?
Yeah. Okay, that concludes our track actually here. Since I'm the only person between you and lunch, let me just say a few closing comments about lunch. Lunch is in the back of the exhibition hall area in the black and white box rooms. After lunch, there will be various tracks in this room. The focus will be the metaverse track, which looks at the good and the not so good of metaverse and its consequences on the global societies. You can find the information about all different tracks on the app. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining.